The proper route is the one that's before us, and that is to deal with a comprehensive approach to immigration law and immigration reform, to deal with the fact that the preeminence of this law is federal, that it is a national law, and that's how to approach it. Congress has either run away from this or exploited this issue. I think this law that the governor just signed, if it doesn't provide an impetus and an urgency to Congress to do something, I think we're missing the whole point. This law opens up a harbinger of very, very bad things that can happen constitutionally to the American people regardless.
Well, maybe you never know with these things have unintended consequences. I want to talk about that. But here's the president today. Let's listen on this issue.
Indeed, our failure to act responsibly at the federal level will only open the door to irresponsibility by others. And that includes, for example, the recent efforts in Arizona, which threaten to undermine basic notions of fairness that we cherish as Americans, as well as the trust between police and their communities that is so crucial to keeping us safe. In fact, I've instructed members of my administration to closely monitor the situation and examine the civil rights and other implications of this legislation. But if we continue to fail to act at a federal level, we will continue to see misguided efforts opening up around the country.
Well, I guess I have to ask you about the president said that our failure to act could lead to irresponsible acts. I'm hoping, as an American like you, that maybe the irresponsible, you could argue, actions of Arizona will lead to the right actions. Let me read to you what Senator Schumer and Lindsey Graham have in mind. This apparently is something like what the president's thinking about. It includes the following. Immigration action this summer to do what? Require biometric Social Security cards to ensure that illegal workers cannot get jobs. Fulfilling and strengthening our commitments on border security and interior enforcement. Creating a process for admitting temporary workers and implementing a tough but fair path to legalization for those already here. Are there any elements there you don't like?
Well, I think the issue is that we have to deal with the reality that there are people in this country and that are law-abiding and that for some reason need to have a path to legalization, and that should be open to them. We have to talk about family unification, which is critical. We have to talk about the DREAM Act, agricultural jobs. It's a myriad of things that need to be reformed in this law. We've been talking only about enforcement and security now for 8 years. The consequence of that funding, billions upon millions, the consequence of those legislative actions has not done anything to deal with the crisis and the broken system of immigration in this country. So it's time we made it comprehensive. It's time it became holistic. And what Arizona has done is to narrow that focus once more and potentially open up a Pandora's box of unconstitutional civil rights violations that are going to be challenged judicially and legally anyway.
Yeah, I heard you, and you follow the pattern here of people who are concerned about the welfare of people in the country illegally, and I assume you are, offer up suggestions about how to improve their welfare by family unification and legalization. But on your side of the argument, you don't hear people talking about ways to actually have fair American-style enforcement. Do you think one of the ways to create an enforcement system would be you can't work here illegally? You can't come to America to get a job if you're coming here illegally in the future by having a Social Security card system that can be checked. Do you support that kind of enforcement vehicle?
The enforcement vehicle, yes, because if we have a path to legalization, if we deal with the undocumented that are here, that are law-abiding and working, and that employers and employees know they have rights and that there's verification to their ability to work in this country, absolutely. The problem is that we've only talked about one end of the spectrum and not dealt with the comprehensive side.
Do you think that if you jammed this issue at the hardliners, the people like the governor, and said, look, let's be honest, the people here are going to stay here. Nobody's going to go around this country rounding up, what, 10, 12 million people, however, in this country and send them away. They've got kids here. They have roots here. As you say, overwhelmingly they're law-abiding. Nobody's really going to ever do that. That's just rhetoric. So let's talk about the future and having a system of liberal but enforceable immigration policy. Would they go along with that, or are they just too angry to think? What do you think?
I think we've reached an interesting crucible here, Chris, in that right now the issue of immigration is either elected officials, that includes members of Congress, either run away from the issue and hide from it, or they exploit it, as Governor Brewer and the Republican legislature in Arizona have done. You demonized, you've profiled people, and then, you know, that's interesting. You could be fifth generation American that happens to be of Mexican descent in the state of Arizona, and you fall under the same discriminatory profiling requirement that's in this law.
That.
Unbelievable, unbelievable.
Well, I understand that. And by the way, I agree with the president. I'm not justifying what Arizona did. I wouldn't vote out there. I wouldn't support it. But I'll tell you, it is what happens when you don't have reasonable people doing reasonable things. You get unreasonable people grabbing control of the situation. I think we all probably agree on that. Congressman Grijalva, thank you so much for joining us on this heated issue, and good luck with it. Up next